1 2 1 2. I go by the name of DJ What, and you're now listening to the original Jeek Podcast. Let's go.
Ready to make an entrance, so backward cut. Come on, cut for me.
Oh yeah. Whoa, slow down. Whoa, speed up.
Fresh.
Yeah, making me itch.
What up, Jeeks? I am your host, the one and only RockinMrMagic, and this is the original Jeek Podcast. Unfortunately, my man, the one and only New Jersey's finest Unique DNA could not join me again. However, your boy did not come alone. Yes, indeed, I have company, fine company. I would like to introduce to you, Jeeks, around the nation and hopefully soon around the world, host of Zero Dark Nerdy, Brian Hernandez.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Matt. I'm glad to be on here. I know it's taken us a little bit to catch up. We started talking just a little bit after the pandemic. We just got done taking a 5-month break here at Zero Dark Nerdy. So I'm very excited to be on the show. As I was saying before during the pre-show, love the social media, especially the CB4 clip. For those of you old school heads out there, big ups to Chris Rock doing his NWA parody. And for Black History Month, I'm Black Y'all clip, which, you know, we can edit that in after, but that is
yes,
as soon as I saw that clip on social media, I was like, these are my guys right here, because I try to represent that clip, and people look at me that aren't around my age. They're like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, see. Yeah, that's when you know they're too young. It's like, all right, let's keep it pushing. Well, before we get started on the show, Brian, do me a favor. Introduce the Jeeks listening to where they can find Zero Dark Nerdy content out there on Shawn Michaels' internet.
Yeah, sure thing. So, as I just mentioned, we just got done taking a 5-month mental health break. I had a lot of stuff going on last year. Got married. Had an uncle get married, daughter graduated college. Yeah.
Wow.
Lots of really, really, really cool stuff going on. So I took it upon myself just to take a break from podcasting for a while, but we're back. You can find us on pretty much any major podcasting format, Spotify, iTunes. I mean, even it's funny when I look at the analytics, like Pandora is still huge overseas. So,
okay.
At the end of the day, we've been doing this because it's just something that we love. I am a 43-year-old pop culture dad that grew up in pop culture. My dad was showing, even though he probably shouldn't have been, I was watching Friday the 13th when I was like 5 years old, and a lot of other hated horror movies. So, pop culture is just something that I'm passionate about, and I was fortunate enough to start this podcast with some really good friends of mine. And we are getting ready to hit year 6. So, yeah, you can find Zero Dark Nerdy on just about every social media outfit, as well as any podcast platform.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely provide links or the link to your link tree in the show notes. So anybody want to check out their content, definitely use that link tree link. Check out their website, give them a subscribe, on Spotify, whatever your podcasting app of choice is. It's really great stuff, which is why I was really excited to have this man on the show. So we're going to jump into our little 5 questions, just so that you Jeeks out there can get a little feeler for my host today, my guest with me. So
Here we go.
You're down in North Carolina, but if we're gonna start on the gridiron, you're an Eagles fan. I'm my mama's family's from Philly. Listeners know, Philly is close to my heart. I'm a Detroit cat, but Philly's tied to my heart. And I live, right outside of Philly. I'm in the Lehigh Valley.
Okay.
So how confident are you as an Eagles fan in their ability to potentially rebound next season?
I will say this. I am not one to just jump ship when things get tough.
Oh, you're talking to Detroit Lions fans, so
Right. Very, very, very true, Matthew. I am not one to jump ship. I mean, any true Philly fan knows when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And I'm not
That's right.
singing along some song lyrics here, but at the same time, though, we can't just give up after one terrible season. Now, did we end the season horribly? Yes. Are we the only team that started 10-1 and didn't win 12 wins? Yes, we are.
yes.
But I do like the fact that we brought in Kellen Moore, and his number one thing that he said, I know Jalen Hurts is a star. I'm going to bring him back to being a star. And that's where the offense revolves around from. It is Jalen Hurts. Now, obviously, as Eagles fans, we've heard a lot of stuff throughout the season. A.J. Brown's not happy, this, that, and the other. I was more shocked that when we brought in Matt Patricia, that our defense actually got worse.
I'm a Lions fan. I'm not surprised by that at all.
Right. So there you go. Now, am I saying that we're going to go back to Super Bowl next year? No. But we're going to be a force to be reckoned with for a while. And I think once we figure it out, what's going on, because the big thing this season was, why are we not running the ball? You know, DeAndre Swift, when he has 100 yards rushing, we win the game. And I've never seen a team abandon the run so fast as I have my beloved Philadelphia Eagles. So, and we all know with Kellen Moore, he had 2 1,000-yard rushers with Zeke and Pollard. So
Yeah.
we can do that with just Swift and maybe Boston Scott in the background and, you know, a couple other people. I mean, we picked up Rashard Penny, who was pretty much just special teams. We'll see what happens. But most importantly, the defense has to step up. The secondary was atrocious. Our linebacking core has really not been effective for a long time. And I love Connor Barwin. I really do. I know he's our linebacker coach. For those of you that watch the Kelsey documentary out there, he was one of the executive producers. And I have the utmost respect for Connor Barwin, but our linebacking core has got to get better. So, we'll see what happens. I never guarantee anything. A guarantee is as my dad used to say, a one-way ticket to getting a foot up your ass. So I will just say I do feel better with the weapons around them, because at the end of the day, too, I do like it when head coaches are also the offensive coordinator. Hence what we have going on in the Super Bowl right now.
Well, that's interesting to say that, because Sirianni says he's taken a step back. So,
well, that's the thing. He has been taking a step back. I thought, to be honest with you, when the season was over, that ownership was going to say, you need to be offensive coordinator or you need to go. And they probably compromised and said, hey, listen, you can bring in whoever you want to be the coordinator, but if this ends up finishing or not being a great product, you're going to be the one that goes. Because, I mean, you look at a lot of coaches, you know what I mean? And that's the thing, because you have to worry about it. And I mean, I'm as much of a sports fan as I am a pop culture fan, just like you. And I love the name Jeeks. You know what I mean? Like Jocks, Geeks. Like it blends so well. Like when you first approached me, I was like, where does that name come from? And you were like, oh, you know, Jocks and Geeks. I was like, oh man, that's genius. Because a lot, you know, I grew up playing sports, and a lot of my friends that I played sports with were also pop culture fans. But, you know, and in the same token, getting back to what I was talking about, when you're a head coach and you're also at least an offensive play caller, you never have to worry about losing your offensive play caller to another team every single year.
right.
So that's why I was like, well, maybe they're going to make Sirianni do that, because that's what he did in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
But he chose not to. So I think he was putting the pressure on himself, and he's going to say, you know what, I'm still going to coach the hell out of this team, but I'm going to hopefully bring in the talent that's not going to get me fired next year.
Right.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It's going to be interesting, especially, you know, new DC, and then we don't know what Jason Kelsey's future is. So it's going to be interesting. Next question. I'm going to make you pick here.
Okay.
Marvel or DC?
I knew this was coming. Now, I have chosen a lot of different answers over the years with this question.
Okay.
Only because here's the thing. I grew up with two big idols in my life. really three, but two, and they're one's Marvel and one's DC.
Oh,
You know, I grew up as far as DC goes, like Michael Keaton Batman.
yeah, same here. I mean, we're 2 years apart in age, like
Right.
same, yeah.
Right. Like that was my first ever poster in my bedroom was Michael Keaton as Batman standing in front of the Batmobile. But comic book wise, I was always a big fan of the underdog, which is why even though I didn't come up as I mean, let's face it, nobody in their right mind would say, "Oh, I love Guardians of the Galaxy" growing up. Like that was
they
was
would
a
be
side
lying.
project. Exactly.
Yeah, if they said that, they was lying.
They would be lying. Like I'm more of a Daredevil fan. Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider was my joint. Johnny Blaze. I love Ghost Rider, and Wolverine was one of my favorite just characters ever. Even before the not even the comic book, but the
movie,
and
the movie
animated
Bush
series.
okay.
Before the movie, even before Hugh Jackman. You know what I mean? So it's tough for me to say that, and I don't want to judge it on anything nowadays. I will say it's gonna be Marvel just because I really like more of their side characters more than we do on DC. I feel like DC, not just as a movie studio and as far as Warner Brothers goes and everything else, I feel like DC, they get a good property and then they kind of deny it for a little bit and they don't focus as much on it, or they're late to the game. You know, for instance, we got Marvel Zombies, and then we get Deceased, which is a great name.
Yeah.
And what I love about Deceased is, unlike Marvel Zombies, Deceased actually takes horror movie posters and incorporates that into their comic books, where Marvel Zombies, they take some of that in, but not as much as Deceased does.
Right.
But I always feel like DC has always been late to the game when it comes to kind of like the new stuff. So that's just,
they haven't been the innovators that they once were.
100%.
And because like when I talk to people about this, because I have such love for both.
Yeah.
And you mentioned one thing that really resonates with me is the side characters. So like DC, they've got their Trinity. They've got three of the, like, if you name the five biggest comic book characters, they've got three of the five in Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Like, they are heavy hitters. The problem for them is when you get under that, Marvel fills out that 6 to 25 list so much more than DC. DC will throw Green Lantern in there, you throw Flash in there.
Yeah.
But after that, it's Spider-Man, it's Captain America, it's Iron Man. You're filling out that 6 to 25 with so many Marvel characters, like Daredevil, like you mentioned, that have such compelling stories. You could put every X-Men in there.
Right.
They're ranked above 99% of the Justice League. Yeah. You know, people would rather read Storm's story, Wolverine, Cyclops. Like, people want that over. No, I mean, when's the last time you thought of someone asking for like a Captain Atom book or like it's Plastic Man book? Like, no one's asking for that, So and DC could not do with even talking now what you mentioned Guardians. No one was a Guardians fan, but what Gunn was able to do and breathe such new life into these nothing throwaway characters.
Right.
The fact that we have a Doctor Strange movie. Doctor Strange was a C-level character.
Right.
If that. Right. Iron Man was pushing B- in popularity, maybe. Yeah. Like, it's wild what Marvel's been able to do, maintain, and sustain. So
100%.
I'd have to personally pick Marvel myself just on the innovation portion. But like you said, I mean, come on, Michael Keaton's Batman the animated series. Like, I was watching that. I kid you not, I was watching that before we got on, because to me that's still the greatest, superhero animated show. Period. Like, there's nothing better.
Yeah,
it is goated.
Yeah.
All right, next one, another battle. Star Wars or Star Trek?
I was born in 1980, So I was right there in that Star Wars age. So I got to go with Star Wars. Now, if I enjoyed the newer Star Trek films with Chris Pine, absolutely. I think they've been fantastic. If I discredit the Star Wars or Star Trek, show or film or anything it's just nothing that I came up with. And I'm just one of those people to where if I don't know much about it, I don't really, I don't want to be a front runner or anything like that. I came up on Star Wars. Like I remember being excited, and obviously hindsight being 2020, I wish I held on to half these action figures.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That I had, I remember having a Millennium Falcon storage case when I was a little kid.
Oh,
that would store the Star Wars toys.
Yeah.
God only knows how much that goes for now.
I wouldn't even want to look.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I definitely got to go with Star Wars. Like, was I a huge fan of the latest Skywalker trilogy? Not so much. I still think Rogue One is one of the best Star Wars properties of all time. But I've just never been that into Star Trek personally. And I have a lot of friends that love Star Trek. We had a next door neighbor when I lived in upstate New York. Big shout out to Johnson City, New York, right outside of Binghamton, hour south of Syracuse. That was gigantic Star Trek fan. I just never really got into it. Like I said, I enjoy the movies with Chris Pine. I think he plays a great Captain Kirk. And what's his name? I can't remember from Heroes.
Oh, you're talking, Zachary Quinto.
Zachary, fantastic spot. And then, like I said, I love those. I wish they would have kept going with those, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I'm still mad that we don't have a fourth of those Star Trek films.
There was a rumor, too, that Tarantino loves Star Trek so much that he wanted to do one.
But I'm kind of glad. Like, do you really want to see it?
You really want to see a Tarantino
Star Trek script? Like,
you don't want to see a Hateful Eight Star Trek.
Yeah, I'll pass that.
Right.
It's funny. I really wish Unique Janae was here because he's someone else that I know who he's big Star Wars. He's actually never seen Star Trek.
Right.
And have you watched any of like the original series or Next Generation? Okay.
Yeah. I've met William Shatner at Comic-Cons. I've seen episodes of it. I came up with my dad being a gigantic fan of the Addams Family and the Munsters. And even if he would have watched Star Trek like that, then I probably would have gotten into it. But he was more I Love Lucy, the Munsters, and Addams Family. So family-wise, that's why I was more into Star Wars than Star Trek.
That makes 100% sense because I am the Trekkie that I am.
Yeah. Because
my mother watched Star Trek.
Right.
Because our age, whatever our parents had on the TV was what we was watching.
Exactly.
And so if we wanted to watch TV, we was watching what they was watching. My grandmother was a Trekkie. My mom was a Trekkie, so I'm a third generation Trekkie, and I love it because I tell people this: the war that goes on between Trekkies and Star Wars fans is silly because like they're not even the same genre.
No.
Star Trek is science fiction.
Yep. And
Star Wars is space fantasy.
Yep.
They shouldn't ever be compared, except for if you're going to talk about 50-plus-year-old franchises that have endured, you can compare them then. But aside from that, there's zero comparison. Like they shouldn't be compared at all because they're not. One is mainly fantasy with some, geopolitics mixed in, where Star Trek is geopolitics, philosophy, racism, classism, sexism,
right?
Gender politics, anti-war politics. Like there is so much philosophy that is put into Star Trek that it's for thinking and processing. Star Wars is more for enjoying it,
right?
So it's like if you want to watch something and think like, wow, that was heavy, that was deep. Let's talk about it. You watch Star Trek. If you want to have a good time,
Yeah.
see some cool, some cool lightsaber battles, and maybe
Right.
subtly realize that, I think they were talking about real life a little bit there too.
Right.
Then you got Star Wars.
Exactly. I'm one of those people to where, our motto with as I mentioned in the pre-show, we used to be called multi-poptural because we're from a bunch of different backgrounds and everything else, and then we switched over to Zero Dark Nerdy. But our main philosophy, our main motto has been everybody love everybody. And that's our thing. It's like, I'm not here to debate which one's better. Like, I can tell you which one I prefer, and
Right.
I want you to tell me which one you prefer. I'm not going to go against you because you prefer this one more than the other one, because it goes back to, just like you said, there's more to this with pop culture than there is actual politics, which that's a whole nother conversation for another day.
Right.
With pop culture, it comes to your history, like your family, how you grew up, like what household you were in,
Yeah.
just kind of just your preference. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I always tell people, because that's the one thing I get asked when I go out, I get asked, who do you think would win in this and this, that, and the other? And I don't mind these conversations. And I mean, I really don't. But at the same time, I'm like, it's whoever you really think would win at the end of the day, because that's who you believe in. Like when I was growing up, to me, there was nobody better than Ghost Rider. And then I got into Wolverine and Spawn, and I was like, oh, there's nobody better than these dudes. And then as you get older, there's other people that you run into, and you're like, man, there ain't nobody better than Galactus, and there's nobody better than Apocalypse, and this, that, and the other. So it's that, which I have a 22, getting ready to be 23-year-old daughter. She'll ask me the same questions, and I'm like, honey, these are questions that you can answer on your own.
Right.
And, she just figures it out. Like, she loves America Chavez. We're Puerto Rican. There's no
of course
surprise there. So this is like homage to the homie.
Yeah.
There. But, at the same time, like, I got her on Something That's Killing the Children, House of Slaughter.
Okay.
She's a huge A24 fan.
Nice.
And, so she's more into the horror comics. But at the same time, like, we just picked up Moon Man #1, Kid Cudi comic book.
Okay.
So, can't wait to dive into that. We got to see him at New York Comic Con last year, getting ready to introduce the comic book.
Nice.
So to me, what pop culture is, it's about just family and dynamic and how you can share that. Because there's nothing more exciting to me than having a movie night or just being able to have these conversations with your close friends and your relatives.
Absolutely. I to piggyback off that, one of my 13-year-olds, she is a massive Spider-Man fan, specifically in Miles Morales.
Sure.
Because Black Spider-Man, and she absolutely loves him. She talks and acts like he's her boyfriend. How
does that make you feel? I got to ask you as a dad.
I tell you this. There are worse comic book characters she could have a crush on. So many worse. Like, she could have a crush on Wolverine. Now, I would not like that. She could have a crush on Iceman. I'd have a problem with that. Miles is a pretty decent pick. As a character, he's got a good head on his shoulders.
Right.
He represents his family. He represents New York, the culture. And both cultures, being Afro-Latino, he's an excellent representative of that. And I was so glad when they announced that they were going to make a Black Spider-Man. And personally, this is a bit of a hot take that a lot of people don't like, but I stand on my hot takes.
Yeah, bring it.
I am one. I don't like taking traditionally white characters and turning them black or whatever. I don't like that.
Right.
I'm not one for turning James Bond black or turning, Steve Rogers black, whatever. If it's a mantle like Spider-Man,
sure,
you have a different character.
Right.
I'm all for it.
Right.
Isaiah Bradley as Captain America. I'm all for it. Yeah. I don't want to see Peter Parker be turned black. I don't want to see Clark Kent turn black. Like, I don't want to see that. I'm all down for Val Zod. Give me a Val Zod movie.
Right.
Would love to see that, or a Calvin Ellis movie.
Right.
But I don't want to see, I'm just not for that. So
like seeing Hal Stewart Green Lantern. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can give me Hal Jordan, but give me a John
Or
Stewart.
that's it. Hal
Yeah.
Jordan. Sorry.
I got Hal Jordan, and unfortunately, Ryan Reynolds. Hey, I'm sorry, the movie sucked. So I'll take a John Stewart movie now.
That's what I meant. Sorry, John Stewart. Yes.
Yeah, I'll take a John Stewart movie. I'll take a Kilowog movie.
Right.
Like, I'll just give me a Kyle Rayner movie.
Right.
I like creation of new characters.
Yeah.
So I really love how Miles has been done, and the popularity. I mean, Miles is 12 years old as a character,
right?
The popularity and the fact that I have no qualms with saying it. The Into the Spider-Verse movies are the best Spider-Man movies by far.
Oh, we're gonna do many podcasts together, Matt. I mean, I'm not one to just jump on the bandwagon because people agree with me or this, that, and the other. I mean, we had this discussion after the Into the Spider-Verse movie. Then we've seen Across the Spider-Verse, obviously. It's just fantastic. Soundtrack's great. And you're 100% correct. Like, I like it to where and here's the thing. Like, most people understand, yes, the majority of these characters were the way they were because of the people that created them. And this was many moons ago. But we've also had the iterations of, like, our Luke Cages, and this and the other, where it was being brought back, like, we need to start representing our culture, right?
Yep.
Which I don't mind the different variations. I agree with you that 100%. So, with that being said, at the same time, I wish that just Sony would figure it out with their live action movies as much as they have with the Miles Morales movies.
Yeah, the Sony animation is killing it.
Yeah,
but the live action is so bad.
Oh, it's terrible. Like, we did our 2024 movie preview episode this year, right? And of all the Sony movies coming out, the only one I care about, of course, is Across the Spider-Verse Part 2 or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
it just ended so great. I mean, it's just a phenomenal franchise, great soundtrack. Great people taking over the voices. I mean, Oscar Isaac is Spider-Man 2099.
Oh yeah.
But then you see like Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter, and
he's not a hunter.
Yeah, and it's just Sony just hanging on. I mean, eventually we know what's going to happen. Disney's going to be like, all right, Sony, like, what's it going to cost? Do we need?
We're just going to buy.
Out?
Yeah, we're either going to buy the company itself or just buy the rights back, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, they're tired of splitting the profits, and they don't have to split the profits. That's the thing. Sony still keeps it all unless it's Peter Parker.
Right.
It's Peter Parker, they still have to split it. When it's not Peter Parker, Sony keeps it all. And eventually, Feige, Marvel, they're going to be like, okay, we've had enough of this. You've done everything under the sun. Morbius, now we got Madam Web.
Which no one's asking for this version of Madam Web.
Madam Web looks like what did I say the other day? It looks like what's the one with the movie where they see their death before it happens? It's like Final Destination.
Final Destination.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Then you have the rated R Kraven the Hunter, and I'm like, I'd rather see Kraven the Hunter in an actual Spider-Man story, not have to hope that this stuff's going to happen. Now, there are rumors that with Kraven the Hunter, there is going to be Andrew Garfield coming back. It's going to be hard. I mean, Disney has enough money to buy everybody. Let's face it.
That's true.
It's going to be hard for them to buy Sony because eventually we are going to be in a monopoly situation to where it's like, okay, let's see what happens. And I mean, the best thing that honestly Disney Marvel did is pump the brakes on everything X-Men. After we had Dark Phoenix.
But did they? I mean, did you see the Marvels?
Well, no. Yeah, right. I did. And I'm just saying they could have done a DC and pump out a Justice League way before it should have came out.
Yes.
They could have done that. And I think the smartest thing they did was like, okay, Logan came out. They just had Dark Phoenix come out. They had New Mutants come out, which besides Logan, the other two were trash. They were just like, let's just calm down and see what we can do. And then eventually, and to be honest with you, man, I don't know what the excitement is about the Fantastic Four. Like, people make it seem like this is like the end all be all.
I am a big Fantastic Four
Okay.
defender.
All right. I want to hear this.
Okay. So like Fantastic Four, in my opinion, and I think most comic book fans would say they are, and probably and still are, the first family of comic book characters.
Yes.
And I think personally it is important to have your cornerstone characters have solid movie performances with what they're doing in universe building. And the fact that they keep failing with Fantastic Four is a major black eye.
Okay.
Because Fox fumbled it, and then Fan Four-tastic, which was just a travesty of travesties.
Right.
It made zero sense. The casting made zero sense. The plot, everything was it was horrid. Yeah. It is a big black eye especially when you look at what they've done. What I said earlier, the C or less level characters that we have standalone movies for. That even if we're not saying that they're A level, they haven't really pumped out a movie that's less than a C plus outside of Eternals. And Eternals really isn't that bad of a movie. When you fact that Black Widow, it's a decent movie. It's like a C plus. Doctor Strange 1 more like a B. Doctor Strange 2 like a C. Black Panther. I mean, Black Panther was not a major character outside of big time Avengers fans and black comic book characters. So the fact that we have standalone shows for Hawkeye, standalone movies for characters that were just not that were not Spider-Man, not Captain America, and not the X-Men, is humongous. So the fact that they have this, they got all the success with throwaway characters, for lack of a better term, that you can't get the first family over. That's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like we got to make this work.
Gotcha.
And also, if you're gonna, and then we don't know what's gonna happen, obviously with Jonathan Majors being gone, but if you're bringing in Kang Dynasty, if you're doing secret invasion, secret wars, if you're gonna do the Kree-Skrull War properly, even if you're gonna do, which my concept was, the next big phase should be Avengers versus X-Men, and that's how I would do it. You can't have any of those stories without the Fantastic Four. So you've got to do them right to make those stories work.
I love it. Thank you. Because, I mean, that makes more sense to me, right? Coming in is not a gigantic Fantastic Four fan, which a lot of people, besides the original movies, they're just kind of like, what is the big deal? I do love Doctor Doom, and I know he's a gigantic factor in the Secret Wars.
Yes.
That's what I'm looking forward to. And granted, with this whole Jonathan Majors mess, I'm hoping they clear this up and keep it moving. I mean, we know that we are now in the dark ages for Marvel, Disney.
Right.
They've had a great run, not saying it's over. It's in a funk. And
I don't even think really it's I was thinking about this the other day. I think the biggest problem with Phase 4 isn't that the shows and movies were bad. I think the problem with Phase 4 is that Disney did too good of a job in relating Phase 4 to real life. I think we enjoyed the first 3 phases so much because it was, especially through the end of through the pandemic, it was escapism.
Right.
Phase 4 started with a kick in the gut with WandaVision, which really dealt with loss and grief and pain.
Yeah.
To an extent that I never thought that Marvel and Disney would do.
Yeah.
And then Falcon and Winter Soldier followed that up with right into, to race in the impact of the blip of the blip.
Yeah.
So race and socioeconomics.
Right.
And then the Eternals dealt with with purpose and loss and grief. Like it was a same with Doctor Strange. There was a lot of things that we were feeling. And I think our feelings were so raw from the pandemic that we related a little too close to what they were putting out, so it didn't feel as fun and as warm and fuzzy and cuddly as we were enjoying it through those first 3 phases. Because the stories they told, in my opinion, were really good, but they weren't that escapism to escape the problems that we're dealing with. Because what we're watching reminds me of the struggles that I'm dealing with in life.
I can see that. Oh man, we're gonna get along great. And I mean, I definitely have seen that. I mean, because that was the one thing I really appreciate. I was telling my wife this when we were watching, at the time it was Captain America and, or not Captain America, it was Falcon Winter Soldier before he became Captain America.
Right.
Because, I mean, that was one of the things I brought up. I was like, so you bring back all these people from the blip. Like, what's going to happen with their home life? Like, they're displaced. They don't know what's going on. And I was glad that at least one show dealt with that. But I also feel that there's so much content that now there's so much room for error in terms of leaving plot holes out. Like, after the Eternals, we still have a sentient being out in the Indian Ocean that hasn't been addressed.
No one's talking about it.
Right. No one. And any show, Echo, Loki season 2, like,
I
we
think
still have this dude out here that was getting ready to explode this planet in the middle of the Indian Ocean, just chilling.
And it was, I think they mentioned it once in She-Hulk.
Right.
But like, other than that, no one's talking about it. There's this massive celestial hand out the water. No big deal.
We can surf. We'll take one of our yachts out there to see what's going on. So I mean, there's definitely some plot holes there, which is to be expected, right? I mean, MCU was such a powerful machine when it was just movies. Then they have Disney, then there's the Disney Plus shows, and you're right. I mean, WandaVision, I thoroughly enjoyed. Both seasons of Loki were great. I really enjoyed a lot of the first couple of seasons. I actually enjoyed Secret Invasion. I know a lot of people didn't like that. I really enjoyed it.
It was the ending for me.
Really?
The ending was my problem. Yeah. I thought the slow burn, because it's a spy show, was fine. I thought I forget his name, the young British brother that played the villain. I thought he was excellent. Yeah. Very intimidating. I can't wait
to see him play Bob Marley this weekend, by the way.
Oh yeah, he's going to be fantastic. Yeah, he's going to be great. So, I thought there were elements that were really good, but unfortunately, fans, we got too wise to the formula. We predicted how there's going to be a same versus same fight at the end of this, and that's what we got. So, a lot of failures at the end of some execution parts where it started really well, and then it was like, this didn't end well. Hawkeye started really well, didn't end very well.
Moon Knight, same thing.
Yeah, Moon Knight started well, and it was like, this is really what we're doing at the end. Like, potential, but also that's not just the Marvel side, because Disney did that to me with Kenobi. Like they did that with Kenobi as well, and also with Andor. So like that just seems to be what Disney is doing on the show side. But I digress. Because these are supposed to be quick questions. So
it's all good.
Last question of our intro questions. What is your favorite? No, I'm sorry, I got 2 more. What is your favorite nerdy movie?
Man, this is a good question, because I have a lot of nerdy movies that I love.
So if you can't pick one, and I'm one who can't pick one favorite movie, I always pick one out of a genre.
Okay.
If you have to pick one out of a genre that you like the most, give me one out of a particular genre.
I don't even want to do it out of a genre. Let me give you, like, I guess you could say, like, my top 3 nerdy movies.
Okay, I can take that.
I'll go 40-year-old version.
Okay.
That's because his action figure collection was fantastic.
Yes,
and the
absolutely.
fact I like he gets called out that he has an Asia poster framed. I always find that part hilarious, and I love Paul Rudd. He can do no wrong. He's fantastic. So that's one of them. Other nerdy movies, I got to go with Revenge of the Nerds, man. I came up with this movie, Lambda. It's just Booger and Company. That's just, again, just nostalgia for movies that I would watch with my dad and and my sisters, and something that we relate to all the time. We're one of those families to where we will send each other memes and gifts constantly on just 80s and 90s movies.
Nice.
And then I think the final nerdy movie in that collection, oh man, it's so good. But I gotta say, I just love Forrest Gump. Just because how he was like a part of all these historical events, you know what I mean? And it was a movie. I really, really love if you don't have Netflix, which I don't understand if you don't have Netflix.
I
mean,
do.
I can get it now, but the Movies That Made Us, I love that series. Absolutely love that series. And the episode on Forrest Gump, because there's so many classic movies out there like Forrest Gump that almost did not get made.
True.
And, you know, this was based on, let's be honest, I read the book one time and I thought it was horrible. And this was after I watched the movie. This was not a very popular book. It was just
it wasn't.
Yeah, it was a terrible book, but it was a cool concept about how this one person with some disabilities, let's just say, was in these crucial parts of certain decades.
Right.
And I thought that they just did so well with it. And the fact that Robert Zemeckis and Tom Hanks fought so hard for it. I mean, they deducted so much of their salary from it that they still make, I think it's something ridiculous, like $100 million a year for Forrest Gump. So that's just one of mine where I just like watching it and seeing those scenes, like when he's dancing with Elvis, he's shaking hands with JFK. You know what I mean? It's just, it's not so much a nerdy movie, but I like all the ultimate pop culture references in it. And of course the story, but
film itself is a nerdy thing, so it counts.
Yeah. But on top of that, though, I always try to remind people to, like, don't get in the friend zone. Jenny is a true bitch.
Jenny and Rose from Titanic are like two of the biggest villains in film history. They're just horrible.
100%.
Horrible villains.
We need to have that podcast for another day. But yeah, Jenny is the worst. The absolute worst. She's like, oh, I'm dying from cancer. Or from AIDS. This is your kid.
This is your baby.
I love you now. Let's get married.
And do you know how much
you got? Like, that's the ultimate friend zone.
Oh my God, yeah. But you know how much it broke my heart watching that movie? Because I had, so Robin Wright was like my first white girl crush.
Right.
Because of Princess Bride.
Yes.
So then I see her in Forrest Gump and I'm like, oh wow, this is great. And then she's the worst. Worst. Yep. And I'm like, oh, I get to see Robin Wright naked. And I was like, oh wow. And I was like, oh my God, I can't stand this chick. She is absolutely horrible.
Yep.
She keeps stringing along this poor simpleton who just wants to to love her, not even romantic. He just wants to love her with a pure love because he loves her. And she just keeps trashing him and just, I was like, oh, I can't stand her now.
I got to say, with Valentine's Day coming up, we have to use this as the clip for this episode right here.
Absolutely.
It's true. Don't get in the friend zone. Be with someone that loves you for who you are as soon as you meet them. Don't get with them 20 years later just because they bottomed out in life and also apparently had your kid.
Right, exactly. All right, so real quick, we're going to move. So one of our sections that segments we call What Are You PWC, which is what are you playing, watching, or creating?
Okay.
So we know you're creating Zero Dark Nerdy, but real quick, when you're home and you turn on the PS5 or the Xbox or your favorite your PC or console of choice, what are you pressing the start button on lately?
That is a great question, Matt. I got to applaud my wife. We're actually getting ready to come up on 1 year. Got married on St. Patrick's Day last year.
Oh, so March is a great month.
Yeah, we love the couch. You know, the couch that's our area. That's where we play games. And I did not expect this. I will say this. I started playing when I bought the PlayStation 5. I started playing the first Spider-Man game. She actually played that way more than I did, beat it before I did. And she's already halfway through Miles Morales and getting ready to start Spider-Man 2. I still haven't beat Spider-Man 1. So,
Wow.
video game wise, I have to get caught up on Spider-Man 1. We both love it. It's so much fun. And then when we actually want to play a game together, we downloaded a free version of PGA Tour. I think it was
Okay.
2023. So
Yeah.
that's like our kind of golf go-to. And a big shout out to my daughter, Jordan. She likes playing that as well. We all suck at real life golf. So it makes us feel better to at least
Same here.
somewhat reasonable in video game golf. TV show wise, my wife and I do like, because we both kind of work from home sometimes. So we go back and forth between like our white noise shows.
Mm-hmm.
So our white noise shows for me is Entourage, Sopranos, Breaking Bad, The Office.
Okay.
For her, it's pretty similar. But when we're actually locked in, we're getting ready to wrap up Invincible season 2.
Okay.
Banging. I'm super late to the game on that. We just started Reacher,
Okay.
the show, not the Tom Cruise Reacher.
That movie was terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard the show is fantastic. And then we are about to wrap up. Big shout out to my friend Jenny Lee from work, The Brother's Son on Netflix. Awesome. Awesome show. Movie wise, we're not really caught up on anything new. I know the next thing we want to watch, we wanted to go to theaters to see it, but it was literally the weekend they just pulled it. I cannot wait to go see the Iron Claw. I grew up a huge wrestling fan. I don't know much about the story about this family.
About the Von Erichs. Okay.
Yes. So I've told people to like stop telling me. I'm like, look, I want to watch.
You don't want to know.
Yes. Like I know a little bit. I know
Okay.
enough, but I don't want to know the whole thing because I have friends that are, still to this day wrestling 24/7, 365, and they've seen the movie and they're like, bring some tissues. That's all I can tell you.
Well, I'm not going to tell much. I've seen Iron Claw.
Okay.
I'm a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Jeek Nation, we have a wrestling podcast that's been on hiatus. So one of
Okay.
the episodes one of our first episodes for this next season is going to be a review on Iron Claw.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to say that I was Holt McNally, who I love from his work with in Fight Club, and also I did a rewatch end of last year of the boxing show he did. No, Lights Out, which is, if you haven't seen Lights Out, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
He was really great in that. I've never been a Zac Efron fan, but Zac did a fantastic job. It's well made, and I definitely think you're going to have it's going to be impactful. I'm going to say that. It's definitely going to be an impactful film.
Yeah. I'm one of those people to where, I don't know about you, Matt, like I've been a lot of funerals. I've had a lot of death in my life and this, that, and the other. I'm not saying that I don't cry at those moments, but I definitely tear up more to moments in cinema because I think that's just what I relate to the most. You know what I mean? And it's nothing against friends or family that have passed away. I just, with good directing and good storytelling, I'm just like, damn. I tell people all the time, I'm like, the only trilogy where I've actually shed at least one minimum tear to is the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. Plain and simple. Like, there's been one part in each movie where I have at least been like, even if I'm playing it off, like, oh, it's dusty.
Stop cutting onions. Stop cooking while I'm watching this movie.
Tell me in the first part when he says, "We are Groot," you ain't tearing up. The second part at the end, and I don't want to, do any spoilers or whatever. Then the third part, really just the whole thing because really what makes sense about Guardians of the Galaxy, I know I'm getting off subject here. It's not.
That's okay. We call it going down the rabbit hole, and we do it all the time.
Yeah,
so
it's not about Peter Quill. Like, once you get to the third movie, this really is a trilogy about Rocket more than anything.
Yeah.
And Peter Quill is just there. And then, seeing how Rocket comes up and everything else. And, my daughter, nothing breaks my heart more than to see my daughter cry. So I'll just leave it at that. So anyways, long story short, film wise, as far as what we're looking forward to, we got a lot of good stuff coming out. I know you and I just mentioned Bob Marley coming out this weekend.
Yes.
One of my favorite artists of all time. I cannot remember this gentleman's name. I know he was in Barbie. He was in like what we just talked about,
Secret Invasion.
Invasion. He from the trailers, he looks fantastic. Argyle, I'm interested about just because it's an interesting story. I love Sam Rockwell. It seems like a great cast as far as new movies coming out. Down the road, I mean, of course, the only MCU film coming out this year is Deadpool 3. And,
Right.
it seems to be on Ryan Reynolds' terms, and we got Hugh Jackman back. So,
And we've got comic accurate costume coming. So
thank God. So that's what I'm super excited about. And, my daughter and I'll never forget taking her to go see Logan, and just her and I tearing up at the end. And so we're excited to see M23 come back, but I'm hoping that there's no more spoilers. Like, I don't want to know anyone else that's coming back in the movie.
yes, they tell way too much nowadays.
It's too much. Like, just keep pumping out fake shit. Like, tell me you're gonna have like Captain America from the TV show in the 70s come back out.
Right.
Whatever it is to break from that. We did have some predictions for this year as far as highest grossing movies.
Okay.
So Saba's was Gladiator 2, which maybe, I'm still
It's a possibility.
in the story.
Yeah.
Mine, it would have came true last year, because I really thought that the Super Mario Brothers movie was going to be the highest, and it was. It's still the highest grossing movie in terms of animated films of all time.
Right.
But it got beat out by Barbie. Fantastic film. Great film. I think this year it's going to come down to either Kung Fu Panda 4 or Despicable Me 4. One of those two animated films is going to be the highest grossing movie of this year.
That makes sense.
What are your thoughts on it? And I want to know what you're watching. What are you playing? What's going on in your world?
All right. So I haven't been able to play a whole lot lately, but when I have had time, I'm still trying to catch up. I'm behind on my Destiny 2 season. So I'm trying to catch up and trying to get some titles. Like, I always get the season of Triumph title. It's like I have the shirt from each year, so I make sure at least I get enough on that title to get the t-shirt, so I can waste my money on a Destiny 2 t-shirt. But I've got a streak going, so I got to keep it up. I finished Crisis Core for like the 5th time, but my PSP, I don't play it anymore because the battery is dead, and I'm not buying a generic battery and another charger to continue to play my PSP. So I bought Crisis Core for the PS5. I just beat that, finished that Monday night. And I'm a big fan. I've played every numbered Final Fantasy, and some not numbered. I'm a big Final Fantasy fan. So that's one of those franchises where I spend my money again on. So I finished Crisis Core. I'm actually finally now going to start playing Final Fantasy 16, which was the only reason why I bought a PS5 to begin with, because I did not have one, because there was no game that was like compelling enough to get me onto PS4. So that's what I'm playing. And I'm going to start, once I find my schedule out to return to Twitch, I am going to start playing Mass Effect, because I actually never finished Mass Effect 1, let alone play 2 or 3. So I'm going to start streaming Mass Effect on Twitch whenever I can get my schedule right. Watching, I watch way too many things. So I watched Marvels today.
All right.
I watched, because it just dropped on Disney Plus. I watched some Batman the Animated Series today. I've been rewatching Friday Night Lights, because there's just so much in there that I love it. So I started watching Friday Night Lights. It's a new year, and I rewatch Battlestar Galactica, the reimagined. I watch that annually. And this week I also started catching up on Strange New Worlds, because I am really behind on my Star Trek. I had to let my Paramount Plus lapse for a little bit.
Right.
So I finished Picard last year, but now I got to catch up on Strange New Worlds. I got to rewatch at least a little bit of Discovery season 4 to prep for season 5. And I am like a season and a half behind on Lower Decks. So my Star Trek, I am really behind on. I also binged this week. I did not intend to, but I binged all of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and it was fan-freaking-tastic.
Okay, so the whole thing's out right now.
All 8 episodes are out right now. I'm telling you right now, Brian, I'm going to warn you. If you aren't intending to watch the whole thing, you might not want to press play until you have time. Because you and the wife may look at each other like, do we really have anything important to do? Nah. I'm telling you, the first two episodes I watched, I immediately went on Facebook and I said, episode 1 and 2, 100 times greater than that movie that Brangelina put out.
Oh, wow.
Just the first 2 episodes. Donald Glover's impact, you can see like the creation, the impact, his impact on the writing, it's clear through it. The chemistry that him and Maya Erskine has looks like, I'm telling you, they're like, they could work themselves into a shoot like Triple H and Stephanie type. Like their chemistry is electric. I'm like, their spouses better watch out because they look too good together. It's fantastic.
Okay.
And it left me immediately. And very few times does a show or a movie right now outside of Spider-Man, into Spider-Verse. Yeah. That's the only other thing outside of Mr. and Mrs. Smith that I've watched lately that immediately left me wanting more.
Wow.
Immediately.
Wow.
I was like, I need more.
Oh, once my wife and I get to a reacher, I know what the hell we're watching. I like that. Hold on. Let me give you some air horns on that. I like that.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Smith it's really good.
Okay.
So staying with TV. So I've got a list. I got a list of TV shows that I think would be dope if they got rebooted. So I didn't give you this little box. I want to hear what you have off the top of the head here. So I personally think these shows would also be great because of technology. Would be dope to have a reboot, and I think some of them are old enough where it's not going to feel like, hey, we just saw this if they got rebooted. Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm going to start with at the beginning of this list. Number 1. Alien Nation.
As far as should it be rebooted or not?
Yes. Would you dig a reboot of Alien Nation?
That one, to be honest with you, probably not. I'd rather see a reboot of V, which is really.
But we've had that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We actually did have that, which to me, V reminded me of They Live. With R.I.P. Roddy Piper. I'd rather see something closer to that than Alien Nation. That's just my personal opinion.
That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Number 2.
Okay.
Mantis.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know if I'd be crazy about that one, to be honest with you.
I think where we are right now with technology and CGI,
right,
Mantis would look insanely cool. And you can definitely get some better writers to write a better show. Like it had a great premise. And Carl Lumbly, they wasted prime Carl Lumbly, unfortunately.
Right.
Because they had him and they just like didn't know what to do with him. But I think Mantis would be dope. But okay. Number 3. Going back to the 80s, Airwolf.
Okay, so now we're speaking my language here. Airwolf, honestly, even Knight Rider, I would be 100%. Because, I mean, now it seems like it makes more sense to do that with technology being the way it is.
Yeah.
So, and I can't remember if it was an Airwolf video game, but there was one where you got, it was Spy Hunter.
Yes, Spy Hunter was dope.
So, which was kind of like a combination of Airwolf and Knight Rider per se. But I would probably say those two with a combination of the movie, a very, very least known movie with the guy that actually directed The Notebook of all things. The Wraith is the name of the movie.
Okay.
It's an 80s flick. It's almost like Christine, but not Stephen King.
Mhm.
So if you have the combination of the Wraith, Airwolf, and then Knight Rider, I would definitely be on board with that. I mean, especially nowadays with the technology.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. Um, we're gonna go to the early 2000s here.
Okay.
I think Jeek 2.0.
Jeek 2.0. I don't.
If you don't remember, Jeek 2.0 was the guy who got it was a sci-fi show on sci-fi where the
Uh-huh.
guy got pretty much he accidentally ingested nanobots and they automatically pretty much turned him to like a super spy.
Yeah, I don't.
And I think it
That's the one thing I don't remember. I do not remember Jeek 2.0, unfortunately.
oh, that's okay. It was I knew it was a bit of a niche one. Because I talk about it and people are like, huh? I'm like, yeah, it had the generic looking brunette white dude and Keegan Connor Tracy, who's in like every sci-fi show.
Mhm.
Okay. Here's one I'm pretty sure you do know. And
All
I
right.
think it was excellent for its time, but I think it could definitely use a visual upgrade and some additional stories would be sliders.
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, I think what we lacked, obviously, coming up in the 80s and 90s was special effects. I mean, you got people like James Cameron, they won't come out with a movie unless special effects are there. I mean, this
Right.
is why it's taken so long to get the Avatar movies, and then finally, when the technology was there, he's like, you know what? Once I got you guys all in the same room, let's go ahead and knock out the next three films. So yeah, sliders for sure. I can see that, especially with the better special effects, because at this point nowadays, I mean, if you're getting terrible special effects, you're almost in that Sharknado
Right.
category, which nobody wants to be in. I mean, it's
Right.
different when you're in the 80s.
Unless you're
You
doing
know?
it on purpose, no
Right.
one wants to be there.
Right, right. For instance, my daughter and I, every time that she comes to visit, I always make sure that we watch an 80s like B horror classic per se.
Right.
We were watching Chopping Ball, and I mean, we're talking, horrible budget,
Yeah.
horrible everything, and I mean, we're just really laughing along, and I mean, that's acceptable because that's literally all the money that they had for this. Whereas
Right.
nowadays, it's like, all right, if you want to remake this, yes, please put in a little bit extra to actually have some good special effects and graphics.
Absolutely. Speaking of kids, next one is more you know, is for the kids. This is a Nickelodeon show, but I think again, technology wise, because of the premise, but the Secret World of Alex Mack.
Wow, that's a good one. That is a good one. I wouldn't say that I would be crazy about that. I would actually be more excited if they did something with Danny Phantom. I think if they
Okay.
could do something with Danny Phantom, that would still relate, because that was like right around, as I mentioned earlier, I have a 20 daughter that's getting ready to be 23 this year. She was born in 2021. So that mid 2000s Danny Phantom range, we love that. Love the hell out of that show. So if you could do a
Oh yeah.
live action version of that with special effects, I think that would translate a little bit more. That one was one that would like I would see and I heard about from like other friends and their kids at that time, but I
Mhm.
just don't know how much that would translate in this day and age, even if you did have the great special effects.
It was one of those ones I was like, I remembered when it came out and I watched it and I was like, because I forget her name. She ended up, being in Mad Men and such. But she was pretty. It was a cool concept.
Mm,
The CGI for the time was, it was groundbreaking for the time.
right.
For the mid '90s, or and I was thinking like it would be another heroine, but we give you a teenage heroine
Right.
that it's science based. Like I was like, yeah, that could be cool.
Yeah.
All right, so this one's going back.
Okay.
Um, but I have a partial to westerns, so I think Gunsmoke would be a good remake.
So here's my thing. I really, really love Westworld when they came out with that on HBO.
Mm-hmm.
And I was glad to kind of see the Western come back, because for the longest time, I mean, really since the beginning of cinema, the Western, like Westerns have always been a thing. You know, like
Yeah.
Tombstone's still one of my favorite movies of all time.
Such a great film.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about Doc Holliday,
Best Val Kilmer performance,
Leiter.
period.
Oh,
Kurt Russell was so good.
fantastic.
You know, O'Neill, Bill Paxton, everybody was so great.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, even the you know, the villains that were the cowboys.
Oh, I mean, Powers Booth as Curly
Right.
Powers Booth. I mean, I still every time I want to like when someone like gives an attitude of like they're not going to talk to me anymore, I search for that gif of Powers Booth where he's like, "Well, bye." It's so good.
Yes. So again, it's one of those things too where I enjoyed watching westerns with my dad. So Gunsmoke, I would actually like to see, and I know that we've had this resurgence, let's just say with Yellowstone, which is more of like a modern day western, you know, let's just say that. But you know, at the end of the day, I mean, I feel like westerns is what built Hollywood. And I
Absolutely.
would not mind to go back to that a little bit because really that's what built this country, you know, for good or bad. Not saying it was all great. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But at the end of the day, yeah, I can see doing something like Gunsmoke now, as long as it's nothing like the Lone Ranger remake that we had. I think we'll be all right.
Oh my God, that was so bad. Army Hammer and then Johnny Depp. I was like, Johnny, I can't. I'll go
Johnny
crazy
plays
on
the
that.
best like characters ever, but there's got to be a limit sometimes.
Yeah, especially I can't. Okay, this one's another one that it's probably only works in my mind because my mind is just out there. But it's going back to the 80s. Remington Steele.
All right, so Remington Steele, which gave us, you know, a Bond.
Yeah, it gave us Pierce Brosnan.
It gave us Pierce.
We had a talking gun.
And that's the thing. I think that wouldn't work because we're in a day and age where we have a John Wick. You know what I mean? Like we have your you know, a Denzel and Equalizer. You have these gentlemen, whether they're wearing a suit or not, that can be gentlemen and kick ass. So I don't know if a Remington Steele would actually fit right now.
Even with the comedic aspect, because those guys are very serious.
They are very serious, but I mean, and that's why I know I mentioned this earlier. And granted, trust me, I can't remember the guy's name, but who's playing Jack Reacher right now in the show. He's not wearing any tuxedos, at least from what I've seen. I'm only right
is
now.
Alan something? Yeah, but he's not wearing any tuxedo.
But you know, he has that comedic. Obviously, he's a giant and very muscular, but he has this very dry George Carlin comedy to him, which is why I really, really enjoy Reacher. So no, I don't know of Remington Steele because I think it would just be too close to Bond to make it, you know, where people would be like, oh, this is just a Bond ripoff. And it would be too close to anything else to be like, oh, well, this is like, you know, this is like a John Wick. This is like a Jason Bourne kind of thing. So that's why true. I don't think it would work because I think it just kind of blends too many lines at this point. Like when Pierce got signed on for Bond, it was a perfect time because Remington Steele was a hit.
Right.
And then it was just the perfect time for him to be Bond. I mean, we're in a time right now to where normally we would already know who the next Bond's going to be. And
why isn't it Henry Cavill?
Yeah. I don't know. A lot of people thought it was going to be Idris. A lot of people thought Henry. You know.
I mean, to me, to me, no one is built better for it than Cavill. But I digress. All right, two left.
Yeah.
This is a favorite of mine. This is going a little softer.
Okay.
A little more relational. You know, pulling on the heartstrings. But this is another 80s classic that I'm so glad is now on Hulu, and I'm reliving it. Moonlighting.
That one I actually do think that's the one with Bruce Willis, right?
Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd.
Yeah, I think you can bring that one back, but you have to do it with an original twist.
Yes, absolutely.
I think we're at the point now, which granted, I know the Connors are out, you know, and it's bringing back more of that old school crowd. You can only do that, but so much. I think if we were to do Moonlighting with a new twist and not go off of the 80s dynamic, like
Mhm.
it could work very, very well. You know, I think in this day and age where there's so many remakes and this, that, and the other, and obviously with the competition with the streaming networks, it's a lot. And Moonlighting was always entertaining. It was
Yes.
funny. It was comical. And if you can bring that back without just trying to recapture that per se, then I think you'd be okay. Because I mean, you know, God bless him. I mean, Bruce Willis isn't going to be acting again,
Right.
and that to me is a travesty. And this
It is.
soldier, you know, for lack of a better term, is doing everything he can to just spend time with his family while he's still around. Like it breaks me up knowing that what he's going through. But I love seeing the pictures of him spending time with his family and everything else. So
Me
you're
too.
not going to see obviously a cameo of Bruce Willis or anything like that.
Right.
But I think storyline wise, yes, I definitely think you can do that to where you can play more towards your like 30 and up crowd. Which
Yes.
there's still an audience for that.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
it's a very big audience for that.
obviously a huge audience for that. Because I was having a conversation at work just today where, you know, people are like, well, you know, I watch this show, but I don't pay premium for this streaming network, so I have to watch commercials. And I was like, bro, welcome to my life. Okay, this was like the first 30 years of my life.
Exactly.
You have to watch 3 30-second commercials. You're going to be okay. And you can
Right.
still pause it and you can still rewind. I mean, I came up in the age of, get your ass back in here. The show's getting ready to come back on.
Right. We
Missed it. You
had to
missed
sprint
it.
to the bathroom, go to the bathroom, wash your hands, maybe grab a snack and get back before
Yeah.
commercials was over.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
these people have no clue.
Oh, yeah. If you miss Saturday morning cartoons, you miss Saturday morning cartoons. There was not going any back to it.
No, absolutely. All right, last one. And it could be it's kind of the same show. So I put both names here. Either the $6 million man or the Bionic Woman.
Man, you got some good questions there. All right, so we'd have to, this day and age, it would have to be the $6 billion man.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
Because $6 million is not building anything. Yeah,
Right. $6 million man is just pretty much like some, you know, YouTube.
that's like a
YouTuber out
toe.
there. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like they just got a brand new like pinky finger. So it
Right.
had to be like the $6 billion man. So yeah, if you could do this, because at this point now, and I want to ask you this, with so many billionaires out there,
Mhm.
you can't tell me one of these guys or gals or people aren't at least trying to come up with their own bat suits. And I mean, they have enough money to do whatever they want. Like, hey, I don't need an Alfred, but I will hire someone to be an Alfred. That's like an ex-CIA
Yeah.
agent, whatever. Help me out with my suits in case I want to go fight crime one day. Help me out. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that it's happening, but I know if I have $10 billion, I might spend $1 billion of that trying to see if I can be the next Batman. That's just me.
Hey, I mean, we all saw Zuckerberg was learning MMA, so
Right.
you know,
Right.
you
He's
never
got his
know.
own bat suit. That's right.
He's got his
A
own
whole
suit,
Facebook
exactly.
symbol that lights up in the sky and all that stuff.
Oh, awesome. All right, so I'm going to take us back to the sports world. We're gonna end in the sports world
Okay.
with two things here. So one, it's February and spring training is just like weeks away. So to celebrate the upcoming season, I'm going to ask you to give me a lineup and a manager. However, I need this lineup to come from the film world.
Woo!
So I need you to give me a so you could take a picture from, I don't know, from The Rookie, or you can take Willie Mays Hayes as your center fielder from Major League. You can take we got The Natural out here. We've got a lot of baseball movies. So I need a pitcher, catcher, all the positions and a manager.
All the positions and a manager.
Yeah, I need all 9 and a manager. So let's start. Who's going to be your pitcher? Who's going to be your starting pitcher?
I mean, I gotta go with my boy Wild Thing, Ricky Vaughn. That's my pitcher right
Ricky
there.
Vaughn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we're going straight off of like cinema,
Yes.
right? That's what we're doing, right?
We're doing
Yeah.
cinema. Absolutely. Yeah.
Pitcher. I mean, I got him going in as my main pitcher, and then I got old dude from Rookie
Okay.
of the Year going in as my closer. So those are my two pitchers.
Okay. Oh, I forget. It's the old dude from Rookie of the Year. Okay. Okay.
Which, granted, Ricky Vaughn came in as a closer towards the end of the movie, but he originally was a starter.
But he was a starter. Yeah.
Just like John Smoltz. He started his career off as a starter, and then he went into the relieving world. All right, so then we're going catcher.
Yep.
I gotta go with Taylor. I'm sticking with Major League right here. So
you going with Taylor?
Got to go with Taylor as my catcher. You know, I love what he.
Okay.
Saying. You know, he likes to talk that. He likes to talk that garbage to the hitters. He keeps his pitchers at bay. He knows his life.
I mean, I can't. That's a great pick.
Okay.
I will push back. I would just say,
to me.
Have you considered Crash Davis from Bull Durham?
Man,
because that was a heck of a catcher.
Mm-hmm. But he was a heck of a catcher in the minor leagues, though, Matt.
That's true.
That's what we got to say.
Okay.
He was one of the greatest minor league players of all time.
That's true.
Taylor was in the majors. And granted, he went around in the Mexican League and did all that. But Crash never went past the minor leagues. As much as I love me some Kevin Costner now. Oh, wow. I got to do all the
All right, give me your first baseman.
Man, first baseman. Goodness gracious. I got to think of a lot of movies here. So I am 99% sure Tom Selleck in Mr. Baseball?
Mr. Baseball.
Mr. Baseball played first base. Did he not?
I believe you're correct. I'll double check,
so
but I'm pretty sure you're correct.
I'm going to go with Tom Selleck there. The infield gets tough.
It does, because generally the stars are pitchers or outfielders.
Right. So, you know what? Second base, I'm going to go with old boy from the he was in Friday Night Lights, and he played Pee Wee Reese in the Jackie Robinson movie. I can't think of his name, but he was also in like Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious.
Yes.
I can't think of his name, but he played second base. He played Pee Wee Reese. That's my second baseman.
So we'll take Pee Wee Reese, even though we'll take Pee Wee. Okay.
Yeah, the actor at least.
Yeah.
Shortstop. This is why we edit right here. We don't want all these pauses. Man, shortstop. I gotta go with goodness gracious.
Short can be tough.
I mean, yeah, because we can't use role players, because obviously I'd say Jeter.
Yeah. So I'll throw some options out there. So shortstop.
Give me some alley-oops. Give me some alley-oops here.
I'll throw an alley-oop here. Let me think. Let me see. I think was it? No, wait. That was first base too.
Because Dorn played shortstop in Major League, and he was terrible.
Yeah, he was horrible. Oh, okay. So we're gonna go. Let's go to a league of their own. Marla Hooch played shortstop.
Perfect. I love that movie.
No, I'm sorry. She was second base. I'm sorry. She was second base. Darn it.
All right. Well, what about Yeah from Sandlot? Did he not play shortstop?
Okay. Was he third base? Man, the Wiki didn't even say what position he played. What is wrong, Wiki? What's wrong, Fandom?
It was either him or Squints.
Well, yeah, it's either him or one of the twins. I can't believe the Wiki doesn't say what position he played. Well, I would go with Hooch, even though she's second. She could play short.
Yeah, let's do that. Third base. That was That was Madonna's spot, right? On League of Their Own.
I want to say she was in the outfield.
No, she was definitely in the infield.
Was she in the infield?
Mm-hmm. Hold on, League of Their Own.
No, she was center field.
Yeah, was she?
Yeah, she was center field.
Damn it.
Yeah, I just posted up. She was center field.
May?
No, because I distinctly remember because they hit that, they had that shot where they hit the fly ball to her and she takes her head off and catches the ball in her hat.
Yeah. All right. So third baseman wise, this reminds me too. I need to watch more baseball movies because it's been so long.
Well, if I was doing baseball,
yeah.
I would go back to Major League with Dorn, Corbin Burnson's character.
Yeah, but he was terrible though. He was like muffing all those ground balls.
Yeah, but he eventually came through.
Yeah, he did.
He was also like a locker room presence. Like you gotta have those glue guys.
He did. All right, so let's do this. I'm gonna trade off. I'm not gonna do a third baseman. I'm gonna do a DH.
Okay.
All right, so the DH. Let's just say this is old school American League baseball rules.
Okay.
Serrano from Major League.
Oh, of course.
Because if you don't do this for me, then fuck you, Joe Boo. I do this myself.
Dennis Haysbert in his youth, man, he was huge.
Yeah. Before he went on to be the president in 24 that got assassinated, and the spokesperson for what was he on?
He's for Allstate.
Allstate, yeah.
And a lot of people forget he was also a Mr. Baseball.
That's right. That's right. So yeah,
he played Hammer Dubois in Mr. Baseball.
That's right. So yeah, left field. I'm gonna go with, because that's the thing. Like, you got Benny the Jet Rodriguez. He did not play any infield roles. Like he was center field. So that's my center fielder. I'm gonna go with Benny the Jet Rodriguez in center field.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna move Willie Mays Hayes over to left field.
Oh, really?
Yep.
You sure you want to do that?
Yep.
You sure you don't want to move him to right?
You run like Hayes, you catch like Hayes.
Because I'm just going to say this. You really want to move him to left field? Because Roy Hobbs plays left field.
Ah, true. True. All right. We'll go Hobbs left field. All right, then we'll move Willie Mays Hayes to right field. And there we go.
All right, so who manages your team?
Oh man. Can I go off baseball and just sports movies and generals?
Sure. Give me a legendary coach.
Okay. I'm gonna give you a legendary coach. I'm gonna go Mr. Chuck Armato from Any Given Sunday being the coach of this baseball team.
I like it.
I gotta go Al Pacino coaching this band of misfits right here.
Oh, he would have an insane time trying to deal with this.
He's got a great ass.
Oh, that would be hilarious. I could see it. Wow. That would be a heck of a baseball movie.
You know what I love about that movie? I actually saw Any Given Sunday. This was back, it came out in 2000. No, not even 2000. God almighty. 1999.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget it. I don't know how many people listen to this that are in North Carolina or around North Carolina. We do not have a lot of snow trucks here.
No, you do not.
The weekend it came out, it snowed and like everything was shut down except for people that had just like extra generators and movie theaters. So my friend JC and I, we went to the old Janus Theater to go see Any Given Sunday, driving down Lawndale Drive. And I will never forget this. Like, it was just one of those things to where we were one of the very few people in the theater because everybody else was at home trying to, figure out fireplace and everything else. And we had no power. And I was also like 18 years old and lived with a bunch of roommates that had no money. So we would just share like one space heater and like move it around each room.
Wow.
So to us, it was like, all right, well, let's go to the movie theater so we can get some heat and get some food.
Yeah.
And we saw Any Given Sunday. And it was great to see Jamie Foxx in his own element. Like, this is after In Living Color. Like, a
Yep.
lot of people do not realize how long Jamie Foxx has been around and crushing it. And this was his first like movie where he was just fantastic. Like, him and LL Cool J got into a fight because for some unknown reason, LL Cool J thought he was going to be the quarterback.
Yeah, I love hearing Jamie tell that story about how him and Ella were fighting over this thing. And he's like, man, I'm an actor. Like, this isn't real. Like, what are you doing?
Right. It's just looking at him like, I remember seeing this movie, and this is when my daughter was 3 years old. It's not the Tooth Fairy. It's something else with The Rock. But The Rock is an actual NFL quarterback. And I was like,
that was The Game Plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, my 28-year-old loved that movie.
Yeah, and so did my daughter. And I'm just sitting here watching it. I was like, what is this giant monstrosity doing being a quarterback? Like, that is not believable. Like, he's a linebacker all day. He's a tight end. He's not a quarterback.
D-line, yeah.
Right. So, like, why would LL Cool J think that he would be the quarterback? So either way, that's neither here nor there. But I always love seeing the interviews where, because this is, Jamie Foxx's first time with an Academy Award winner, especially like Al Pacino. And he's literally impersonating him in the scene. And Al Pacino had no idea that he was going to impersonate him when he was like, oh, when you go down, you need to go down to the couple's cars down the left and make a right and pretend like you're playing in the hood. And I was like, oh my God, that is fantastic. And the fact that Al Pacino had no idea that he was literally going to make fun of him, telling him that story in that scene. It's just classic. If you've never seen Any Given Sunday, go watch it. I love Lawrence Taylor. Rest in peace to the late Jim Brown, who is the linebackers coach, defensive back coach, and a Syracuse alumni for all of us upstate New Yorkers out there, and one hell of a lacrosse player too.
Oh yes, he was. Oh yeah. And the cast of that movie is it's fantastic.
So good. Because you got Jimmy Woods playing like the sketchy doctor. Cameron Diaz is like Cameron's daughter. Yeah.
Dennis Quaid.
Right.
Bill Bellamy.
That's right.
Bill Bellamy. Yeah. Layla Rochon in that movie. Mm-hmm. You had Matthew Modine.
Yep.
Lauren Holly's in that movie. John McGinley's in that movie. Elizabeth Berkley's in that movie.
Yeah.
Like, ton of people in that film.
Yeah. That to me is one of my most rewatchable movies of all time, but especially like rewatchable sports movies. I love the hell out of it.
Absolutely. All right. So I'm going to ask you for one more lineup. This one should be easier because this one would involve real people. So what would be your dream MLB lineups if you could pull from any player in history?
Woo!
What lineup are you putting out on the field?
Oh man. All right. So catching, as much as I love Yogi, I love me some Yogi. I got to go Mike Piazza back there catching. Pitching wise, this is honestly probably the toughest one.
Oh, because there's so many.
I'm just a fan of the underdog, but I'm especially a fan of intimidating people to say.
Okay.
I love Andy Pettitte. When he has the glove and just the scowl and all you see is his eyeballs. Pitching wise, I'll go Andy Pettitte. I mean, closing wise, of course, we got to go Mariano Rivera. I mean, that's the easiest question ever.
I mean, the Sandman. I mean,
right.
How do you pick anybody else?
If we're gonna go starting pitcher, let me go with him right there. First base. Goodness gracious. This one's actually tough because there's a lot of really great first basemen out there. I would probably have to go with Jason Giambi.
Okay.
Whether as an Oakland A or as a Yankee. This is going to be a lot of Yankees focus on here. I'm from upstate New York.
That's okay.
This is my dad's favorite team. Second base. Probably Robinson Cano. Actually, no. Not Nomar. Ichiro. What did he play? Second?
Ichiro played most of his MLB career. He was in the outfield.
Okay. All right. Well, give me Ichiro. Let's just say right field.
Okay.
So second base. Let's go with
now, being that you're thinking Yankees a lot, would you not put Alfonso Soriano?
That's exactly what I was thinking, and I was like,
because I mean,
such a great swing.
Soriano was really good in New York.
He was. All right, give me Alfonso Soriano. That's where I was going. Shortstop. I mean, of course, none other than El Capitan, Derek Jeter. If I do have a couple like second places in there, you know, you got the Iron Horse. You got the Wizard of Oz. I mean, there's a lot of fantastic shortstops out there in the history of baseball, but from what I can remember, as far as just growing up, it's always been Derek Jeter.
Yeah, DJ,
the captain.
He's a Hall of Famer for a reason.
Yeah.
Who you putting at third?
Third, honestly, is a tough spot. The hot corner.
Hot corner.
Oh man. I want to say, because I know he played it for a couple years. I don't know how often he played it, but was it Bryce Harper that played third base for a little while?
Guys that played third base that moved to outfield would be guys like Miggy Cabrera started at third and went to and then ended up moving to first. Outfield then first. I think Bryce played third in like high school. I don't think he ever played third in the majors though.
All right. Let's see here. Hold on.
Third baseman, there are guys like obviously Wade Boggs. You've got right now I'm drawing a blank on third baseman. Adrian Beltres of the world.
All right, let's do this. I'm gonna switch some. I'm gonna switch some stuff here.
Okay.
All right, let's go. Wade Boggs third.
Okay.
First base. I'm gonna go Chipper Jones.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna switch that up.
Oh, Chipper at first. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Chipper, man. Chipper was something else.
Outfield wise,
you got Ichiro,
and I'm going old school outfield.
Okay.
I don't have Ichiro there now, so you know what? Out of respect to Ichiro, I am going to keep him in right field. I'm going to put Ken Griffey Jr. in center field, and I'm going to put Bo Jackson in left field. Ain't nobody scoring.
I'm gonna tell you that right now. With Griffey and Bo throwing into these,
I'm gonna tell you that right now. Ain't
two cannons.
No pop fly is gonna get you a run from third base with those three guys out there.
No, not at all. Wow. Oh, and so am I safe to assume Joe Torre is your manager?
As much as I love Joe Torre, I will stick with Joe Torre just because he came up at the right time, right?
Oh,
it was one of those things to where
it was a perfect storm.
Yeah, the Yankees, for the exception of some draft picks, which don't get me wrong, I live here in Greensboro, North Carolina. Like Jeter literally came up through the system. So did
Bernie Williams. Pettit.
Pettit. A lot of these guys did, and when it was the Greensboro Bats.
Yeah, Paul O'Neill, a lot of those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Manager wise, we've taken some risks. We had the Billy Martin days in the 70s.
Right.
We brought in old boy from Oakland, Reggie Jackson.
Yep.
Mr. October, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget it. When my daughter was first born, she was literally born 4 days after 9/11.
Wow.
And this is when they postponed everything.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, "Hey, I'm going up to New York to stay with family. I'm going to try to catch a World Series game. Do you want to come with?" And I was like, "No, I have a newborn, can't make it." And he went to the game to where Jeter hit the game-winning home run where he became Mr. November.
Wow.
So I'll never, ever forget that. Even though I wasn't there, I still
The moment, yeah,
The
absolutely.
moment, everything. So with that, with that being said, manager wise, you know what? You're right. I will say Joe Torre because it's more just like the legend about him. And like everybody knew he wasn't the smartest coach on the planet. Like he wasn't this statistical genius. He just had the locker room and just the
Yeah.
respect and was just right for that time and that era. Like there was still like the mafia around and shit. Like this guy was rolling around with Gotti and
Yeah.
everybody else and just like chilling. Like he was untouchable. Like even though he wasn't in that category, like
Oh yeah, he was.
didn't mess with Torre.
Yeah, he was untouchable. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
He reminded me a lot of not personality wise, but just as far as how they had the locker room and everybody believed in him. He
Mhm.
reminded me of like the East Coast version of Tommy Lasorda.
I'm so glad you said that because that's exactly what I was thinking. I besides being a Yankee fan, I came up a gigantic Ricky Henderson fan, Jose
Me too.
Canseco,
Mhm.
Mark McGuire, like that Oakland A's crew, Tommy
Dennis
Lasorda,
Eckersley.
all that, Dennis Eckersley. Yep. I could not agree with you more. I love those guys to death.
And you talk about moments like, as a Tigers fan, my seminal moments are, Alan Trammell and Lou Whitaker, and those Tigers winning
Right,
that
Cecil.
championship. And Kirk Gibson. But then, because I was such a Kirk Gibson fan, when he went to the Dodgers,
Yeah.
him on one leg, he hits that home run over Eckersley, and he's just pumping as he limps around the bases, like seminal moment in baseball.
Yeah.
And because of Gibson, I became a Dodgers fan, and so I loved Lasorda, and then Strawberry went there and whatever. Like, and plus Dodger blue is it's an awesome color.
It's a great color. It really is. I'm one of those where I'm like, I'm a diehard Eagles fan. I'm a diehard Yankees fan. Don't get me wrong, but I'm also a diehard sports fan. Like, as long as you don't talk shit to me or in front of my family or God forbid in front of my daughter, I'm gonna get along with you. Like I get along with a lot of Cowboys fans. I'm not one of those like, oh, you can't talk to me because you support this team. Like, I just love sports, and I love talking about sports history like this with someone like you because that's what we come from. Like that's what we remember, and that's what kind of makes us in our mold. So I literally talked about the damn home run with Kirk Gibson literally 3 hours ago. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things where it's just an impactful part of life that I'm glad that I got to see and be a part of.
Same, absolutely. Like the footage, like when it comes to like those parts of life, people were talking about, you're a Lions fan, you must be so excited they may make the Super Bowl. I said, if they do, I will be super glad. But I said, look, as a Detroit sports fan, I've seen my Tigers win the World Series. I've seen the Pistons win all 3 of their championships. I've seen the Red Wings win a slew of cups. Yeah. I even saw the Detroit Shock and WNBA win a bunch of titles. Yeah. I've seen my Michigan Wolverines win 2 national championships. Like, I can't complain.
Yeah.
As a Detroit sports fan.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of success. So, like, in those moments, like, they resonate.
Yeah, and they live with you, and it's great to share with your family and your friends. Like, my daughter was here last year when we faced Kansas City in the Super Bowl. Even though we lost, like, I still have to enjoy that with my daughter.
And absolutely.
And she knows it's just like, hey, you can't win them all, and that's even a more important lesson that we need to teach to everybody. Like, look, nothing is given.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's not guaranteed. Like you go back out and you try to go get it. And I think that's where sports and movies and entertainment just come in handy because it's not just something that we can just share with our families and enjoy, but it's also like there's important messages in all of this that it's easy for a lot of us to relate to instead of just being like, talked down to or just, hey, here's this and then the other. Like I relate more to, discussing a movie or a sports situation with my family than I do like a real life situation for the most part. I'm giving per se,
right?
But at the same time, it's just one of those things to where people shouldn't take it for granted. Like enjoy the time, even if you don't love that sport, even if you don't love that movie. enjoy those times, especially with your immediate family, because you don't know when you're going to have that again.
Absolutely.
And that's what means the most to me. Like, I love the times with my wife and my daughter and my family, to where we can just enjoy even just the littlest things, and just sharing like little memes and gifts with each other. But it always comes back to pop culture. I
Yeah.
feel like that's why you and I do what we do.
Yeah, that's why, like, I mean, the tagline for this show is, the best conversation you'll have, like, with around sports and geek culture. Like, that's why I do the show, because I love talking to people like you and just enjoy the passion and the pleasure behind sports and pop culture. And because traditionally, for guys like us who came up in the 80s and 90s,
Right.
it wasn't a thing. You weren't allowed to mix them. But now,
Right.
now everyone wants to act like it's been the same. Like, no,
Yeah.
y'all used to make fun of us, but hey, it's
Yeah.
okay. Y'all
Yeah.
can join us. It's okay.
Yep.
You
Yep.
can like anime and like sports. You can like sci-fi and be a Cowboys fan. It's okay. You're allowed to. So, I can't think of a better place to end it on, with where you said, especially just those, great moments shared with friends and family. Listeners, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the original Jeek Podcast. Make sure you check out the show notes. Click the link tree so you can find Zero Dark Nerdy's website, podcast, everything they've got going on. They've got some dope merch. If you dig t-shirts, get the t-shirt, because I'm jealous. Their logo looks like the Converse All-Star logo. It's really dope. I'm going to have to cop me one of those myself. It's a super dope logo. Special thank you to our guest tonight, Brian Hernandez. Brian, thank you so much for coming on the show, spending time with me. I really appreciate it. And I really look forward to doing this again with you.
Oh, 100%. It's honestly people like yourself that keeps me doing this. It's doing a podcast. I'm sure you've seen this. You get imposter syndrome sometimes, where it's like, should I continue to do this? Am I making a difference? Am I doing this and that with the other? As long as you're doing it for yourself and just trying to entertain the masses, that's all that matters. Like, I don't want to say I never, like, I don't judge my show off of how many people listen per episode. As long as I'm doing my best and doing everything I can and just having a good time, that's what matters the most. And Matt, I can tell you right now, I have not had this much fun in an interview in a long time, and I cannot wait to interview you, hopefully soon.
I'm looking forward to it.
Podcast. So no, and that's what it's all about. It's about passion for me. It's not about listens, likes, clicks, follows. I want to have real conversations with real people. And I'm sorry it took so long for this to happen. But I'm really glad that we were able to make it happen.
It's all in good timing, so I appreciate it. And Jeeks, we appreciate your listening. You can always find the original Jeek Podcast and all Jeek Nation podcasts on your podcasting app of choice, Apple, Spotify, Castbox, and more. And if you can't find us, let us know at jeeknation@gmail.com or message us directly on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Yes, we're not going to call it X. It's still Twitter. And until next time, peace.
Ready to make an entrance, so backward cut.
Come on, clap for me.
Oh, yeah. Whoa, slow down. Whoa, speed up.
This is DJ What, and you're listening to the original Jeek Podcast.